The lecture described a lost civilization. She asked, "Why does that look like Earth?" Part 1. Katie Morgan walked into the lecture hall 5 minutes early, like she always did. She found her usual seat near the middle, not too close to the front where Professor Thelvan might call on her, and not too far back where the lazy students sat. She placed her datapad on the desk and looked around at the other students filling the room. The Grand Academy of Valanth Prime was one of the most famous universities in the known galaxy. Students came from dozens of different worlds to study here. Katie could see Rillian students with their blue skin and large dark eyes. There were Morthaki students covered in soft brown fur. A group of Kelzari sat together in the corner, their long tails wrapped around their chairs. And then there was Katie. She was the only one of her kind in this class. The only one of her kind she had ever met, actually. Her adoptive mother had always told her she was Solari, a rare species from a small moon on the edge of mapped space. But Katie had never met another Solari. She had never seen pictures of their homeworld. When she asked questions, her mother changed the subject. Professor Thelvan entered the room, and the students grew quiet. He was an old Valanthi, with gray skin that had faded to almost white around his 4 eyes. His forearms moved slowly as he set up his presentation equipment. He had been teaching at the academy for longer than most students had been alive. "Today," he said in his deep, rumbling voice, "we continue our study of extinct species and lost civilizations. But this lecture will be different. Today we discuss perhaps the most mysterious species ever recorded." Katie opened her datapad and prepared to take notes. She liked this class. There was something sad but beautiful about learning how other species had lived before they disappeared. "This species," Professor Thelvan continued, "called themselves humanity. They existed approximately 200 cycles ago, before vanishing almost completely from the galactic record." He pressed a button, and a holographic image appeared above his desk. It showed a creature standing upright on 2 legs. It had 2 arms, smooth skin in various shades of brown and pink, and hair only on its head. Katie felt a strange feeling in her chest as she looked at it. "Humans were remarkable for many reasons," the professor said. "They evolved on what we call a death world. Their planet had extreme gravity compared to most inhabited worlds. It was filled with dangerous predators, poisonous plants, and violent weather. By all logic, intelligent life should never have developed there." A Rillian student raised her hand. If their world was so dangerous, how did they survive long enough to become intelligent? "An excellent question," Professor Thelvan said. "Humans survived because of 2 traits that made them unique. First, they were incredibly adaptable. They could live in almost any environment. They survived in frozen wastelands, burning deserts, and thick jungles. Second, they formed emotional bonds, unlike anything we have seen in other species." He changed the image. Now it showed groups of humans together, holding each other, smiling at each other. "Humans loved deeply," the professor said. "They formed families, friendships, and communities with fierce loyalty. They would die to protect those they cared about. They would also form these bonds with other species, treating alien creatures as part of their families." Katie felt her eyes getting wet. She did not know why. She blinked quickly, hoping no one noticed. "Humans also created art, music, and stories at a rate we have never seen in any other species," Professor Thelvan said. "They had a need to express themselves, to share their feelings, to leave their mark on the universe. Some scholars believe this creativity was connected to their deep emotions." He pressed another button. "Now, let me show you their homeworld." A new holographic image appeared, and Katie stopped breathing. It was a planet. A beautiful blue planet with green and brown land masses. White clouds swirled across its surface. A single large moon hung in the space beside it. Katie knew this planet. She had seen it before, in dreams that came to her since childhood. Dreams she had never told anyone about. Dreams of blue water and green trees, and a yellow sun in a pale sky. The humans called their world Earth, Professor Thelvan said. It was located in a small solar system on the outer edge of the galaxy. Approximately 70% of its surface was covered in water. It had one large moon that controlled its ocean tides. Katie's hands were shaking. Her heart was beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. "Professor," she heard herself say. Her voice sounded strange and far away. Thelvan looked at her. "Yes, student? Why do I know that planet?" The room went quiet. Every student turned to look at her. Katie felt her face grow warm, but she could not stop herself. "I have seen that planet before," she said. "In my dreams. Since I was a small child. I dream about blue water and green trees, and a sky that is not purple like here, but pale and light." Professor Thelvan's 4 eyes narrowed. He stared at her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "What is your name, student?" he asked. "Katie Morgan." "And what species are you, Katie Morgan?" "I am Solari," she said. But the word felt wrong in her mouth. It had always felt wrong. The professor did not look away from her. "I have studied many species in my long career. I have never heard of the Solari." The other students were whispering now. Katie could feel their eyes on her. She wanted to disappear. "My mother told me," Katie said weakly. "She said I am from a moon on the edge of space." "Who is your mother?" "Counselor Miracet." Something changed in the professor's face. Recognition, understanding, and something else. Something that looked almost like excitement. "I see," he said slowly. "Class is dismissed early today. I need to speak with this student alone." The other students gathered their things and left, still whispering and looking at Katie. Her best friend, Zin, a young Valanthi with kind eyes, stopped at her desk. "Are you okay?" Zin asked quietly. "I do not know," Katie said honestly. Zin squeezed her shoulder with one of her 4 hands. "I will wait outside for you." Then Katie was alone with Professor Thelvan. The old scholar walked slowly toward her desk, his eyes never leaving her face. "Stand up," he said. Katie stood. He walked around her in a circle, studying her, looking at her hands, her face, her hair. Katie felt like a specimen being examined. "2 arms," he said quietly. "2 legs. Hair on the head. Smooth skin. Forward-facing eyes." He stopped in front of her. "Tell me, Katie Morgan, have you ever wondered why you look different from every other species you have ever met?" Katie nodded. She had wondered every single day of her life. "I believe I know the answer," Professor Thelvan said. "But I will need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Katie looked at the holographic image of the blue planet still floating above his desk. The planet from her dreams. "Yes," she whispered. The professor smiled, and Katie thought she saw tears in his old gray eyes. "Then I need you to do something important," he said. "I need you to ask your mother about the ship she found you on. And I need you to come back to me with what you learn." Katie's whole body went cold. "What ship?" "I was born on a moon. My mother told me." Professor Thelvan shook his head slowly. "Your mother lied to you, child. And I think somewhere in your heart, you have always known that." He was right. Katie had always known something was wrong. She just never had the courage to face it. Until now. The lecture described a lost civilization. She asked, "Why does that look like Earth?" Part 2. Katie did not sleep that night. She lay in her bed in her family's residence, staring at the purple sky through her window. The 2 moons of Valanth Prime moved slowly across the darkness, but Katie did not see them. She saw only the blue planet from the lecture. Earth, the planet from her dreams. She waited until the house was quiet. Her adoptive mother, Miracet, had come home late from a diplomatic meeting and gone straight to bed. Katie listened to the silence for a long time before she got up. Her mother's private office was at the end of the hall. The door was locked, as it always was. But Katie had learned the access code years ago. When she was a curious child. With too many questions, she pressed the buttons slowly, holding her breath. The door slid open with a soft sound. The office was small and neat, like everything her mother owned. Data pads were stacked on the desk. Official documents hung on the walls. But Katie was not interested in any of that. She walked to the cabinet in the corner, the one her mother always kept locked. Katie had never opened this cabinet before. She had thought about it many times, but she had always stopped herself. She trusted her mother. She loved her mother, but Professor Thelvan's words kept repeating in her head. Your mother lied to you. The cabinet had a different lock, one that required a key code and a voice command. Katie did not know either one. She stood there, frustrated, until she noticed something. The cabinet was old, older than the other furniture in the room, and the seal around the door had cracked with age. Katie pulled a thin tool from her pocket, something she used to fix her electronics projects. She worked the tool into the crack and pushed gently. There was a soft click, and the door swung open. Inside, she found boxes, old boxes covered in dust. Katie pulled out the first one and opened it. Photographs. Dozens of photographs printed on actual paper, the way they did things centuries ago. Katie flipped through them with trembling hands. She saw a tiny creature, pink and soft, wrapped in a white blanket. The creature had small hands with 5 tiny fingers. It had a round face and closed eyes, and a mouth open in a cry. It was her. Katie knew it was her. Even though she had never seen a picture of herself as an infant, she found more pictures. The tiny creature growing bigger, being held by Miracet, who looked younger and smiled with joy. Being fed, being bathed, being dressed in small clothes. At the bottom of the box, Katie found documents. They were written in a language she did not recognize. The letters were strange, but somehow they felt familiar, like something she had known once and forgotten. She found another document, this one in the common galactic language. It was a medical report. Subject: unknown species. Female infant. Approximately 3 months old. Found aboard damaged vessel of unknown origin. No other survivors. Vessel destroyed during investigation. Recommend classified status. Katie read the words 3 times. Found aboard damaged vessel. No other survivors. Her mother had told her she was born on a moon, that her birth parents had died in an accident, that Miracet had adopted her through legal channels. All of it was lies. Katie put the boxes back and closed the cabinet. She walked out of the office in a daze. She went to the kitchen and sat at the table, staring at nothing. That was where Miracet found her in the morning. Katie? Her mother's voice was confused. What are you doing up so early? Katie looked at the woman who had raised her. The woman who had fed her and clothed her, and taught her to read and protected her from harm for 22 years. The woman who had lied to her for every single one of those years. I went into your office last night, Katie said. Miracet went very still. Her 4 arms, which had been reaching for breakfast items, dropped to her sides. I found the pictures, Katie continued. And the medical report. The one that talks about a damaged vessel. Katie. Her mother's voice was barely a whisper. You told me I was Solari. You told me I was born on a moon. You told me my birth parents died in an accident. Katie stood up. Her hands pressed flat on the table. None of that was true, was it? Miracet closed her 4 eyes for a long moment. When she opened them again, they were wet with tears. I was trying to protect you, she said. Protect me from what? From those who would hurt you, study you, use you. Katie shook her head. That does not make sense. Why would anyone want to hurt me? Miracet walked slowly to the table and sat down across from her daughter. She reached out with one hand and took Katie's hand in hers. 22 years ago, I was working on a patrol ship near the outer borders of Valanthi space. We detected a vessel drifting without power. When we investigated, we found it was badly damaged. The technology was unlike anything we had ever seen. Katie listened without speaking. Inside, we found bodies, adults, all dead from injuries and lack of oxygen. But in a small, protected chamber, we found one survivor. A baby. A tiny infant, wrapped in blankets. Still alive. Me, Katie said. Miracet nodded. You. I held you in my arms, and you looked at me with eyes that were so alive, so aware. You grabbed my finger and held on tight. And I knew in that moment that I would do anything to keep you safe. What happened to the ship? Her mother looked away. The military command ordered it destroyed. They did not want evidence of the vessel to exist. They did not want anyone to know what we had found. Why? Because they were afraid. Miracet looked back at her daughter. Your species was not unknown to them, Katie. They knew exactly what you were. And that terrified them. Katie felt cold. What am I? Her mother was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke a single word. Human. The word hit Katie like a physical blow. Human. The species from the lecture. The extinct civilization. The creatures who loved too deeply and created too much, and survived a death world through sheer determination. That is impossible, Katie said. Humans are extinct. Professor Thelvan said they disappeared 200 years ago. That is what the Galactic Council wants everyone to believe, Miracet said. But it is not true. Humans did not go extinct. They were erased from the records. Why would anyone do that? Because humans were feared, Katie. Your species was too adaptable, too emotional, too creative. Other species saw you as a threat. When humanity faced a disaster and had to leave their world, the Council saw an opportunity. They declared humans extinct. They destroyed evidence. They made it illegal to speak of your species in official contexts. Katie pulled her hand away from her mother. And you knew all of this. For 22 years, you knew what I was, and you never told me. I was protecting you. You were lying to me. Miracet's face crumpled with pain. Yes, I was lying to you. Every day, I lied to you. And I would do it again, if it meant keeping you safe. Katie stood up. She did not know what to feel. Anger, betrayal, confusion, fear. Everything was mixed together inside her. I need to be alone, she said. Katie, please. But Katie was already walking away. She went to her room and locked the door. She sat on her bed and stared at the wall. Human, she was human. The last survivor of a species that the galaxy tried to erase. Her datapad beeped. A message. Katie picked it up without thinking. The message was from an unknown sender. It contained a single image, the blue planet called Earth. Below the image were coordinates and 3 words. You are not alone. Katie stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed a response. Who are you? The answer came quickly. Someone who has been looking for you. Come to the coordinates. Come alone. The truth is waiting. Katie knew she should tell someone. Her mother. The authorities. Professor Thelvan. But her mother had lied to her. The authorities wanted her species erased. And the professor was a stranger. There was only one person she trusted completely. She sent a message to Zin. I need your help. Meet me in 1 hour. Then she started to pack. The lecture described a lost civilization. She asked, why does that look like Earth? Part 3. The coordinates led to a small moon on the edge of Valanthi space. It took Katie and Zin 6 hours to get there in Zin's small transport ship. They did not talk much during the journey. Katie stared out the window at the stars, thinking about everything she had learned. You do not have to do this, Zin said as they approached the moon. We can turn back. Pretend none of this ever happened. Katie shook her head. I cannot pretend anymore. I need to know the truth. Zin reached over with one of her 4 hands and squeezed Katie's arm. Then I am with you, whatever we find. Katie felt grateful tears in her eyes. She and Zin had been friends since they were children. Zin had never cared that Katie looked different. She had never asked uncomfortable questions or made Katie feel like an outsider. She had simply been a friend, loyal and true. Thank you, Katie said. They landed on the moon near a structure that looked abandoned. It was some kind of research station, with metal walls and dark windows. Katie checked her datapad. This was the location from the message. It looks empty, Zin said. Only one way to find out. They left the ship and walked toward the station. The air was thin but breathable. Dust covered everything, and Katie could see that no one had been here in a long time. The door to the station opened when Katie touched it. Inside, emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in a dim red glow. Someone has been maintaining the power, Zin observed. They walked through empty hallways until they found a large room filled with equipment. Screens lined the walls, data storage units sat on tables, and in the center of the room, a holographic projector hummed quietly. Katie walked to the projector and touched it. The machine came to life, and suddenly the room was filled with images. Images of humans. Katie gasped. There were thousands of them. Pictures and videos and documents. She saw humans working, playing, laughing, crying. She saw their cities and their vehicles, and their art. She saw families holding children. She saw friends embracing each other. What is all this? Zin asked in wonder. Everything, a voice said from behind them. Katie and Zin spun around. Standing in the doorway was Professor Thelvan. He looked older than he had in the lecture hall, tired and worn. But his 4 eyes were bright with emotion. I am sorry for the secrecy, he said, walking into the room. I needed to be sure you were truly seeking the truth before I revealed this place. You sent the message, Katie said. I did. I have been searching for human survivors for 60 years. When I saw you in my class, recognized what you were, I knew I had finally found what I was looking for. Why? Katie asked. Why have you spent your life searching for humans? The professor walked to one of the screens and brought up an image. It showed a young Valanthe standing next to a human woman. They were both smiling. Her name was Grace, Thelvan said softly. She was my friend, my colleague, the finest mind I ever knew. When the council decided to erase humanity, she came to me. She gave me all of this. He gestured at the room. All the records, all the evidence. She asked me to preserve it until humans could return. What happened to her? She left on one of the evacuation ships. I never saw her again. The professor turned to face Katie. But I made her a promise. I promised that when humans returned, I would help them remember who they were. Katie looked around the room at all the images, all the data, all the preserved memories of her species. What happened to us? She asked. Why did we have to leave? Thelvan brought up a new display. It showed Earth, the blue planet. But something was wrong. A massive cloud of debris surrounded it. The surface was dark and covered in brown and gray. 200 years ago, an asteroid struck Earth, the professor explained. It was large enough to cause catastrophic damage. The impact threw dust into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight. Temperatures dropped, crops failed, humanity faced extinction. So they left, Zin said. They had no choice. Humans had developed faster than light travel only decades before. They did not have time to build proper colony ships. Instead, they converted every vessel they had into evacuation transports. Millions of humans scattered across the galaxy in thousands of ships, hoping to find new homes. What happened to them? Katie asked. That is where the tragedy deepens. Thelvan changed the display again. Now it showed official documents with the seal of the Galactic Council. The Council was already afraid of humanity. Your species was too adaptable, too creative, too emotional. Other species worried that humans would eventually dominate the galaxy. That is ridiculous, Zin said. Katie is the kindest person I know. And that is exactly what they feared. The professor looked at Katie with sad eyes. Human empathy was seen as a weapon. Your ability to form bonds with other species, to make them love you, to inspire loyalty and devotion. The Council believed that if humanity survived and spread across the galaxy, they would eventually take over, not through war, but through connection. Katie felt sick. So the Council let us die? Worse. They actively hunted the evacuation ships. They destroyed some. They captured others. They took human children and placed them with alien families, wiping their memories and their records. The professor paused. Like you, the room was silent for a long moment. Not all humans were found, Thelvan continued. Some ships escaped. Some colonies were established in hidden locations. Humanity survived, but in scattered, isolated groups, and the Council made sure the galaxy forgot they ever existed. Katie sat down heavily on a nearby chair, Everything she thought she knew about the universe was wrong. Her species was not extinct. They had been hunted, scattered, and erased by the very powers that were supposed to protect all intelligent life. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because things are changing," the professor said. He brought up a new display showing a ship traveling through space. In the 200 years since the evacuation, human survivors have slowly been finding each other. They have built hidden communities, they have developed new technologies, and now they are searching for their lost children. Katie's heart started beating faster. "What do you mean? The ship that is carrying your lost brothers and sisters is on its way here. They received my signal when I found you. They want to meet you, Katie. They want to take you home." "And home? To Earth?" "Earth is recovering. The dust has settled. The climate is stabilizing. Some humans have already returned to begin rebuilding." The professor smiled gently. "But home is not just a planet, child. Home is your people, and they have been looking for you for a very long time." Katie felt tears streaming down her face. She had spent her whole life feeling alone, feeling different, feeling like she did not belong anywhere, and now she learned that there were others like her, searching for her, wanting her. Zin knelt beside her friend and wrapped two arms around her. "This is good, Katie. This is what you wanted." "I know," Katie said through her tears. A beeping sound came from the professor's datapad. He checked it, and his face grew serious. "They are here. The human ship has arrived." He looked at Katie. "Are you ready to meet your people?" Katie stood up, wiping her eyes. She looked at Zine, her best friend, the one who had stood by her through everything. "Will you come with me?" she asked. Zin smiled. "You could not keep me away." Together, they followed Professor Thelvan out of the station and toward the landing pad, where a strange new ship was touching down. A ship built by human hands. A ship full of humans who wanted to bring Katie home. She had never been more scared in her life. She had never been more hopeful. The lecture described a lost civilization. She asked, "Why does that look like Earth?" Part 4. The ship was unlike anything Katie had ever seen. It was not sleek and elegant like Valanthi vessels. It was bulky and practical, covered in patches and repairs that showed years of hard use. But there was something beautiful about it, something that felt warm and real. A ramp lowered from the side of the ship, and Katie held her breath. A man walked down the ramp. He was tall, with dark skin and short gray hair. He wore a simple blue uniform with a patch on the shoulder that Katie did not recognize. He moved with confidence, but his eyes were soft and kind. Behind him came others. A woman with red hair tied back in a tail. A young man barely older than Katie with nervous eyes. An older woman with wrinkled hands and a gentle smile. Humans, real humans, people who looked like her. Katie felt like she might collapse. Zin steadied her with two strong arms. The man in front stopped a few meters away from Katie. He studied her face for a long moment, and Katie saw tears forming in his eyes. "My name is Daniel Hayes," he said. His voice was deep and warm. "I am the commander of the New Dawn. And you must be Katie." Katie nodded. She tried to speak, but no words came out. Daniel smiled gently. "It is okay. Take your time. I know this is overwhelming. I have never met another human before," Katie finally managed to say. "We know," the red-haired woman said, stepping forward. "My name is Lisa Park. I was also raised by aliens, on a Morthaki colony. I know exactly how you feel right now." Katie looked at her with wide eyes. "You were like me? Many of us were." Lisa gestured at the young man beside her. "This is Kevin Grant. He was raised by Kelzari merchants. And this is Susan Cole." She nodded at the older woman. "She was found drifting in an escape pod when she was just a baby, and a Rillian scientist raised her." Katie looked at each of them. They were all different ages, different appearances, different backgrounds. But they were all human. They were all her people. "How many of us are there?" she asked. "More than you might think," Daniel said. The New Dawn has been traveling the galaxy for 30 years, searching for scattered human communities and lost children like you. We have found thousands of survivors. Some were living in hidden colonies. Some were raised by aliens who loved them. Some were living alone, never knowing what they were. Why? Katie asked. Why do you search for us? Daniel's expression grew serious. Because humanity almost died. We were scattered across the stars, hunted by those who feared us, forgotten by a galaxy that wanted to erase us. But we refused to disappear. He stepped closer to Katie. Every human life is precious. Every one of us who was lost deserves to be found. That is why we search. That is why we never stop. Katie felt tears rolling down her cheeks again. She had spent her whole life feeling like she did not belong anywhere. And now this stranger, this human, was telling her that she mattered, that she was precious, that people had spent decades looking for her. I do not know how to be human, she said quietly. I was raised Volanthi. I think in their language. I eat their food. I follow their customs. I do not know anything about being human. Susan, the older woman, walked forward and took Katie's hands in hers. Her grip was warm and firm. Being human is not about customs or language or food, Susan said. Being human is about how you love, how you connect, how you refuse to give up, even when everything seems hopeless. She smiled. And from what I can see, you are already very human indeed. Katie looked down at their joined hands. Human hands. Hands that looked like hers. I have so many questions, she said. We have time, Daniel replied. Come aboard the New Dawn. Let us show you who your people are. Let us tell you the stories of where we come from and where we are going. Katie looked back at Zin, who was watching everything with wide, curious eyes. Can my friend come too? Katie asked. Daniel looked at Zin and smiled. Any friend of a human is welcome among us. That has always been our way. They walked together up the ramp and into the ship. Inside, Katie saw more humans. Dozens of them, going about their daily work. They looked up as she entered, and she saw recognition in their eyes. They knew what she was. They welcomed her with nods and smiles. Daniel led them to a common area where they could sit and talk. The other humans gathered around, eager to meet the new member of their scattered family. Tell me about Earth, Katie said. I have seen it in my dreams since I was a child, but I do not know what it was really like. Daniel leaned back in his chair. Earth was beautiful and dangerous. It was a world of oceans and mountains, forests and deserts. The gravity was strong, which is why humans are so dense and heavy compared to most species. The weather was violent, with storms and floods and earthquakes. Predators hunted in every environment, and yet we survived. We built civilizations. We created art and music and literature. We loved each other fiercely and fought each other stubbornly. Why did the other species fear us? Katie asked. Lisa answered this time. Because we did not know our place. Most species in the galaxy are specialists. They evolved to fill one specific role, to live in one specific environment. But humans were generalists. We could adapt to anything. We could learn anything. We could bond with anyone. She shook her head. The galaxy had never seen anything like us, and what you do not understand, you often fear. It was our empathy that scared them most, Susan added. Humans could form genuine emotional connections with other species. We treated aliens like family. We loved them, protected them, died for them. Other species did not know how to respond to that. Some embraced it. Others saw it as a threat. Katie thought about her adoptive mother, Miraset, about how much she loved her, despite learning the truth about her lies, about how Miraset had risked her career and her safety to protect a human child. The aliens who raised us, Katie said slowly. The ones who loved us enough to keep us safe. Were they wrong to do what they did? No, Daniel said firmly. They were brave. They saw helpless children who needed protection, and they gave it. That is not wrong. That is beautiful. He paused. Your alien family loved you, Katie. Never doubt that. And you can love them back? Even as you learn to be part of our family too. Katie felt something release in her chest. She had been so afraid that finding her human identity meant losing her Volanthe family. But Daniel was telling her she could have both. I want to see Earth, she said suddenly. I want to see the planet from my dreams. Daniel and Lisa exchanged a look. That is actually why we came for you now, Daniel said. Earth is recovering. The first human settlers have returned to begin rebuilding. We are planning an expedition to join them. He looked at Katie intently. We would like you to come with us. To Earth? To home. Katie's heart was pounding. Earth, the blue planet, the world where her species began. She could actually go there, walk on its soil, breathe its air, see its sky. Yes, she said. I want to go. Before anyone could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. Daniel jumped to his feet. What is happening? Katie asked. A crew member rushed into the room. Commander, we have incoming ships, Galactic Council enforcers. They are demanding we surrender the human-designated Katie Morgan. Katie felt cold terror grip her heart. How did they find us? Zinn demanded. Daniel's face was hard. It does not matter. What matters is what we do now. He looked at Katie. I will not let them take you. I promise you that. But if you fight them, people could die, Katie said. Some things are worth fighting for, Daniel replied. You are worth fighting for. Katie looked around at these humans, these strangers who had searched the galaxy to find her, who were now willing to risk their lives to protect her. And she made a decision. No, she said. I will not let anyone die for me. There has to be another way. She pulled out her datapad and sent a message to the one person who might be able to help, her mother. The lecture described a lost civilization. She asked, Why does that look like Earth? Part 5. The Council enforcer ships surrounded the New Dawn within minutes. There were 5 of them, heavily armed and ready for battle. Their commander sent a message demanding that Katie be handed over immediately for study and containment. Katie stood on the bridge of the New Dawn, watching the ships on the display screen. Daniel stood beside her, his crew ready at their stations. We can fight, Daniel said quietly. We have done it before. And how many people died those times? Katie asked. Daniel did not answer. His silence was answer enough. There has to be another way, Katie said again. Let me try. Before Daniel could stop her, Katie walked to the communication station and opened a channel to the enforcer ships. This is Katie Morgan, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. I am the human you are looking for. I am willing to speak with your commander. There was a long pause. Then a new voice came through the speakers. It was cold and official. You are a member of an extinct species. You are classified as a dangerous anomaly. You will be taken into custody for study. I am not extinct, Katie said. I am standing right here, talking to you. And I am not dangerous. I was raised on Volanthe Prime by a Volanthe family. I attended the Grand Academy. I have never hurt anyone in my life. Your species was classified as a threat by the Galactic Council 200 years ago. That classification has not changed. Then maybe it should. Katie took a deep breath. She thought about everything she had learned in the past few days. About humanity and their capacity for love. About the fear that had driven the Council to try to erase her people. About the bonds that connected beings across species and across stars. 200 years ago, the Council decided that humans were too dangerous to exist, Katie said. They said we were too adaptable, too emotional, too creative. They said our empathy was a weapon. She paused. But look at what that empathy actually did. Human children were scattered across the galaxy, raised by alien families who loved them. Those aliens did not see weapons. They saw children who needed protection. They saw beings worthy of love. The enforcer commander did not respond. My mother is Counselor Miraset, Katie continued. She found me on a damaged ship when I was an infant. She could have turned me over to the authorities. Instead, she took me home. She raised me. She loved me. She is not human, but she is my family. Katie felt tears in her eyes, but she kept speaking. That is what humans do. We connect. We bond. We build families with anyone who will have us. That is not a threat. That is a gift. She looked at Zin, who was standing nearby with tears streaming down her face. My best friend is Valanthe. She has stood by me through everything. She does not care what species I am. She cares about who I am. Katie turned back to the communication screen. If you take me away and study me like an animal, you prove that the galaxy has not changed in 200 years. You prove that fear still rules. But if you let me go, if you let my people live in peace, you show that maybe we can do better. There was a long silence. Katie could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Then a new voice came through the channel. A familiar voice. This is Counselor Miraset, speaking on behalf of the Valanthe Diplomatic Corps. Katie's breath caught. Her mother had received her message. I have listened to this conversation, Miraset continued. And I have something to add. 22 years ago, I made a choice to protect a human child. I have never regretted that choice. Katie is my daughter. She is kind, intelligent, and good. She is everything the Council feared humans could be, but not in the way they expected. Miraset's voice grew stronger. The Council said humans would dominate through connection. They were right. But they misunderstood what that meant. Humans do not dominate. They include. They expand their families to welcome everyone. That is not conquest. That is love. Katie was crying openly now. So was Zin. Even some of the human crew members were wiping their eyes. I am requesting that this matter be referred to the full Diplomatic Council for review, Miraset said. Until that review is complete, no action should be taken against any human vessel or individual. Another long silence. Then the Enforcer Commander spoke again, and his voice was less certain than before. The request is noted. All units stand down pending Council review. The Enforcer ships began to pull back. Katie watched them go, hardly daring to believe it was real. Daniel put a hand on her shoulder. You did it, he said softly. You stopped them without a single shot being fired. Dumb. I did not do it alone, Katie said. She looked at the communication screen. Mother, I am here, Miraset's voice said. Thank you. You are my daughter. There is nothing I would not do for you. A pause. I am sorry I lied to you for so long. I was afraid. I know. I understand now. Katie wiped her eyes. I love you, Mother. I love you too, my child. Whatever happens next, that will never change. Professor Thelvan stepped forward. He had been watching everything from the corner of the bridge. What happens next is that we spread the truth, he said. I have already begun transmitting the records from my research station to academic institutions across the galaxy. The Council can suppress one old professor. They cannot suppress the truth once it is free, Daniel nodded slowly. And the New Dawn will continue our mission. We will find every lost human. We will bring our people back together. He looked at Katie. But first, there is somewhere we need to go. Katie knew what he meant. Earth, the planet from her dreams. I want to come, she said, but I need to say goodbye first. 2 days later, Katie stood at the spaceport on Valanthe Prime. Miraset was there, along with Zin and Professor Thelvan. The New Dawn waited on the landing pad, ready to depart. How long will you be gone? Zin asked. I do not know, Katie admitted. There is so much I need to learn, so much I need to see. Then I will be here when you come back. Zin pulled her into a tight hug. You are still my best friend, no matter what species you are. Katie hugged her back, holding on tight. Then she turned to Miraset. Her mother looked older than she had a week ago, tired and worn from everything that had happened. I will come back, Katie promised. I know you will. Miraset reached out and touched Katie's face with one gentle hand. Go find your people. Learn who you are. And remember that you will always have a home here too. Katie embraced her mother one last time. Then she walked up the ramp and into the New Dawn. The ship lifted off and climbed through the purple sky of Valanth Prime. Katie watched through a window as the planet grew smaller and smaller, until it was just another point of light among the stars. Then Daniel came to stand beside her. "Come to the observation deck," he said. "There is something you should see." Katie followed him to the front of the ship, where a large window looked out at the stars ahead. And there, in the distance, she saw it, a blue planet with green and brown land masses. White clouds swirling across its surface. A single large moon hanging beside it. Earth. Katie pressed her hand against the glass. Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. "It is beautiful," she whispered. "It is home," Daniel said. "Your home. Our home." The new dawn moved closer, and Katie could see the planet in greater detail. The scars of the ancient disaster were still visible. Brown patches where forests had not yet returned. Gray areas where cities once stood. But there was green, too, spreading across the continents. There was blue water, clean and bright. The planet was healing, and on the surface, Katie knew, humans were rebuilding. Her people, her family. She had spent her whole life feeling like she did not belong anywhere. Now she understood the truth. She belonged everywhere. She was human. Raised by Valanthi, loved by aliens and humans alike, she was a bridge between worlds, a living proof that connection was stronger than fear. The lecture had described a lost civilization, but Katie Morgan knew better now. Humanity was never lost. They were simply waiting to be found. And now, finally, they were coming home.